You have been a long-time business associate of our current president. You also consider him a friend. When I remember you told me when we had a long conversation shortly after he was in office, and we talked about. I said, this rhetoric is troubling. The kind of stuff that he says. Basically, if I were coming in now, it would be harder for me to
as an immigrant.
Yes, correct. But you said, look, just separate the rhetoric of this guy and the hot-headedness and sort of the direct action from what he's going to do. All right? I said, okay, let's wait. We're about 100 and change days in. He is involved or sort of enveloped in multiple crises, many of his own making. Do you still feel as confident in his leadership right now? And my second question to that is, do you not feel like all this international turmoil, if you looked at what happened with Qatar yesterday and the GCC and all the sort of the regional disputes that he's now taking credit for, do you not feel that sort of stirring shit up, if I may, is going to have an impact on your business and an impact on this economy in a negative way?
I actually think that he's doing a really good job. I say it all the time, he's a risk manager. He, and you couldn't pay me to do his job. You just couldn't. But he's doing it, and I give him a tremendous amount of credit for persevering through a lot of this. I don't think that the Russian thing is anything but a lot of hot air. To me, unless you believe that he called the Russians up on the phone and said, please hack into the Democratic computer because I think I'm going to win the primary, when in fact, by the way, he didn't know that he was going to win the primary in those days. I just don't believe that happened.
Okay.
The Kushner story, I think that...
The back channels you're referring to.
Yeah, I think Jared Kushner ought to be celebrated for leaving a multi-billion-dollar family business and actually serving this country. I think he ought to be celebrated. I worked in the Senate. I think at 35 years old, it's not something people do at 35 when they're sitting on top of a business of that magnitude. He goes to Washington, and since time immemorial, we've had back-channel communications. That doesn't mean illicit communications.
Okay.
Henry Kissinger was an ambassador without portfolio because people can't officially have conversation at times. So they need to do it unofficially.
What about the other side of the equation, though? So we're talking about these scandals, and yes, we are still in a phase where we don't actually know what happened. So let's put that aside for a minute. He is going to the Middle East. He is talking to country. Qatar is a huge investor in the U.S., massive. I mean, they own some of the most trophy assets across the country, here in New York as well. He is suddenly taking credit for essentially causing this row, in a sense, if you looked at his tweets and what he said later. Do you think that level of international turmoil is good for your business?
I know this is going to sound disingenuous to you, and maybe even to people who listen to this, but I don't care. I really don't care. So my business is affected. I got asked this question about 1031 exchanges at a conference I was attending, where someone said, well, if the tax law changes and they eliminate 1031s, doesn't that hurt the real estate business? And I said, so what? I mean, it's not about, I just don't think that I don't want to think selfishly about my business. I've had an amazing life, so I don't make as much money. I mean, that's almost irrelevant to me.